Okay, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mongolia Evaluation Association's monthly learning session for March 2025. My name is Puruf Dolong. I'm the Evaluation Capacity Building Co-Chair at Mongolia Evaluation Association. And I'm very pleased to be your moderator for today's session titled Beyond Evaluation, the Unlocking the Power of Evaluative Thinking. So I'm thrilled to have such a great turnover for this important discussion on how evaluative thinking can enhance decision-making and impact. Today, we are very honored to have Mr. Ziad Musa as our speaker. Ziad is an experienced evolution expert in intellectual and professional fashion for evolution development. Over the past 25 years, he has managed complex multi-country evolutions across Arab world and global South in well over 40 countries and with almost every major donors on the circuit. This is really great. And he specialized in evolution in fragile contexts, particularly in the conflict, post-conflict settings, as well as the local governance systems and processes. He was the driving force behind establishing the Middle East and the North African Evolution Association. Also, he was elected as the president of International Organization of Cooperation in Evolution between 2015 and 2017. As well as the co-chair of Eval Partners between 2016 and 2018. So now he serves as the board of director at the International Evolution Capacity. So we are very happy today with Ziad, and we will now begin with Ziad's presentation, followed by a Q&A session. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat or just ask your questions directly by unmuting. So now, without any further delays, I am pleased to hand it over Ziad. Ziad, please, you can share your screen and
Good
we can
morning.
start.
Well,
thank you.
Since this online thing started, I believe that in one session you can get 3-4 takeaway messages. So I'll be stressing on these takeaway messages as we go along. Just to introduce, when people would speaking about methods and tools and what have you, but then you have a big elephant in the room that is evaluative thinking. And evaluative thinking, if you go through the literature, is a set of do's and don'ts. And it's so basic and common sense that sometimes you have difficulties in figuring out, okay, I'm an evaluator. I think evaluatively, but how do I know if I'm applying evaluative thinking or not? So in the next 30 minutes, and with one video and several questions to the audience, because I hate it just to be talking to myself. We'll try to unpack what is it about, and hopefully leave you with some more entertaining stuff than Netflix. Let me share the presentation, and it's been a while I didn't use Zoom, so okay, slideshow, and from beginning. So here we are. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Hopefully the internet connection also will hang on. Okay, so first, respect to elders. I know in Mongolia you cherish the elders, and here we cherish the elders. Some of them are not so old like Thomas, but Ricardo Wilson Grau, who was the guy who put together outcome harvesting and who kind of shaped the left side of my brain. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think, 7 or 8 years ago. I'm using some of his material. On the right, our guru, Michael Quinn Patton, long life to him. And I'm also using some of his thoughts and materials. And the middle, Thomas Archibald, which was, who's like one of the most visible researchers working on evaluative thinking. My background, or let's say the way my evaluation thoughts were shared, was through the outcome mapping learning community. So it's a mix of all of the above plus some of mine. First, how can you find your way into the eval jungle? So what's appearing on the screen are the different methods, tools, approaches, what have you. And when we say I'm an evaluation expert, I mean, for heaven's sake, you would have read about 5, 10, 20 of these if you don't have a Netflix subscription. You would be an expert in 3, 4, 5 of them, but like what connects the dots? Okay, and let's say that after more than 25 years in the circuit, I came to realize that it's evaluative thinking. Now let me explain what is evaluative thinking. If you look at this picture, and maybe we're a small group, so just open the mic and talk. If you look at this picture, and I want you to tell me which component is the project, which component is the monitoring and evaluation system, and where do we position evaluative thinking? So, which component is the project? Which component is the MEA? And where do we position evaluative thinking? Let's take 3 tries. Whomever guesses this is right, I offer a free subscription to Netflix for the next 3 months, so that you don't have to watch more of these seminars. Yalla, who wants to take the jump?
Okay, just let me try to understand. I think the whole body, the engine, whole body is the project itself. Like then the monitoring and evaluation is more the like how to say дуугч юу гэдэг лээ. Wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, wheel.
Okay, and evaluative thinking?
Evaluative thinking, I think more like жолоодлого шивүүл engine. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Anybody wants to give a contrarian guess? Okay, let's calm down the suspense.
There is
Actually,
one in
in
the
this
chat.
picture, the motorcycle itself. Come again, Uga?
There is one answer in the chat from Xiaoxi. She said that human is a project, engine as evaluative thinking, and Mandy as monitors on machine.
Good. In my
Yes.
explanation, the way I explain evaluative thinking, so the motorcycle itself, which is traveling a long way, is the project or the program. Evaluation sits next to it, but walks hand in hand. Let's say meal system, MEA, whatever you call it. It's the component next to it. So it's the passenger car next to it. We're not on the motorcycle, we're next to it, but we're there all along the journey. Evaluative thinking, my friends, is the fuel that runs the whole thing. Okay? So that's the first takeaway. Without evaluative thinking, we could be going, but like if you want to go in the right direction, well, think of the evaluative thinking as the fuel who runs the engine. It runs the meal, it runs the program. Without it, everything would stop or would go in a different direction. So think of it this way. This is our first key takeaway this morning. Let's have read what Michael Quinn-Patton says. So he says, begin by distinguishing evaluation thinking or evaluative thinking from doing an evaluation. Evaluation is an activity. It produces a report, it produces some conclusions, etc. Evaluative thinking produces effective organization. So in that sense, again, if you have good fuel, you can go far. If you have enough fuel, you can go wherever you want. If you have short fuel, you can go a little distance. Okay? And it's a systematic intentional and ongoing attention to results. It's not like you do it midterm or end term. It's not like you're counting how many beneficiaries and how many trees and how many what have you, etc. And it focuses on how results are achieved, what evidence is needed to inform future actions, and how to improve future results. So, and the metaphor of the two hands is that you can't say that the two hands are alike, and you cannot say that evaluation and evaluative thinking are the same. There are nuances, and that makes it like a bit more difficult to walk you through these nuances this morning. Let's look at the MEA system now. Okay. In the beginning, it was MEA, monitoring, constant internal evaluation, episodic external. You've heard it over and over. But now they've added to it A for accountability and L for learning. So MEAL, MERL, now they add also R for results. It just depends. But let's say that the construct is more or less the same. You have monitoring, evaluation, accountability, learning, but then there are connectedness. So sometimes you're monitoring for accountability, sometimes you're monitoring for learning, sometimes you're evaluating for accountability, sometimes you're evaluating for learning. So under these, and again, taken from an evaluation perspective rather than any other perspective, monitoring and accountability is basically participation, feedback, responses. What are you getting? Are people involved? Do stakeholders have a say? And what's being monitored, etc. On the other hand, when we're in evaluation under accountability, you're looking for results. Did you achieve what you promised to do in the proposal or in your action plan? And transparency, like did you achieve it in a transparent way by involving everybody, etc. When you're monitoring for learning, you're thinking critically. I mean, what would have happened if? What could have I done differently? And thinking is not enough. It should be translated to action. How do you adapt? How do you change? How do you improve your program? And, when you've done an evaluation or you finished evaluation, you're looking at good practices, strategic directions to inform the project. Now you get 1 month subscription to Disney Channel if you tell me what's in the middle of that diagram. So monitoring, evaluation, accountability, learning. We often overlook it, and it's a discipline of its own. But I mean, it's in French you say le parent pauvre, the poor parent, and the whole construct. What would be in the middle? Any guess?
Topic.
Evaluative thinking.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
No.
Evaluative thinking.
No. Knowledge management. We always keep talking about knowledge management, and knowledge management is not about, taking pictures of some beneficiaries and saying this is what we did. It is not about putting the report on ChatGPT and say, give me an executive summary, and then you go to LinkedIn. I'm thrilled to share that, blah, blah, blah. Knowledge management is somewhere at the junction of monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, and takes a bit of each. And you were right in the sense that knowledge management is not about stating the obvious, is about highlighting what you can do better or differently. And this is where evaluative thinking comes into the picture. Now, when we're doing MEA, like the M&E people, we work based on knowledge, to understanding the how, the why, basic concept, terms, methods, resources, etc. We require technical and working skills. This is why we attend trainings on result-based management and theory of change, and indicators and assumptions and all the good things that make our life fun, but also observation, analysis, communication. We also when working in MEA, and I said it especially when I talk to young and emerging evaluators, your job is not to work around Excel and to produce static dashboards. You need to think what's behind the data. You need to analyze what's the data and what's in the data, to reflect, to question, to strategize, do mental modeling, etc., etc. And you need attitudes. First, you yourself, you need to believe that you are in this job to make a difference and a bit of money. Of course, a bit more than working in the supermarket, but definitely less than working in the stock exchange or in big NGOs. So you have to believe that you're a change agent. You have to, believe in evidence and how do you pursue evidence. And how evaluative thinking comes into the picture is basically in defining and refining the thinking and analytical skills, but also the attitudes. All the literature you will read about evaluative thinking would tell you that you need to embed it in organizations. It does not happen overnight. It's something deliberate, it's something ongoing, etc. Now, we've talked on the peripheries. Let's go into the formal definition. So evaluative thinking is critical thinking, but applied in the context of evaluation or MEA, because we're not into evaluation anymore, motivated by an attitude of inquisitiveness and a belief in the value of evidence that involves 4 aspects. That's the second takeaway. Pay attention. One of them is identifying assumptions. Those of us who have been working, have seen theories of change with list of assumptions, have seen log frames with list of assumptions. From myself, I don't tell you about the ideal situation, but normally when we're writing a proposal or developing a logical framework, we put the assumptions at the very end and the last quarter hour before we submit, and then we forget about them. Evaluation thinking brings value to assumptions, because ultimately all your model, everything you promised to do, and your log frame, and your proposal, and your theory of change is dependent on the assumptions. So you cannot put them in a corner and forget about them. You should live daily with them. And when you, like me, work in a region where a war breaks up every other year in every other country, it's very difficult to plan in a linear manner, because a lot of things will pop up and happen. So working with assumptions is a key in evaluative thinking. Posing thoughtful questions that are geared toward learning. Normally, when you receive the TORs of an evaluation, more and more, especially now that ChatGPT is there, you get a very prescriptive list, 50, 60, evaluation questions that you're supposed to answer. Now, the guys who have deep pockets would give you 50 days to do it. Small NGOs who have the unpaid version of ChatGPT now wants you to answer 50 evaluation questions in 5 or 10 days. It's not feasible. I mean, learning questions are essential, and in an evaluation, you just define, you say how you're going to use the evaluation and who is going to use the evaluation, and leave it to us, the evaluation people, to define the questions. Okay, you give me clues. I want to know about the programming performance. I want to know about sustainability. I want to know if there's an exit strategy. I want to know if we answered some policy directions. But then it's the evaluator who should be steering the wheel and asking questions. There's also the issue of multiple perspectives, and we'll be touching on that in a bit. And evaluative thinking is about making informed decisions in preparation for action. It's totally useless if you put that fancy setup, but then you don't use it and translate it into action. So far, we're clear, we're fine. So assumptions, questions, perspectives, system, decisions. These are like the four elements. If you will be applying to a UN job and then you sit into these silly exams, remember these are the four answers if you get the question on evaluative thinking. And this is like a landmark paper. Thomas Archibald, those of you who have attended AEA or EAS or what have you, he's quite active. The landmark paper is the paper I mentioned. Just copy, paste, you'll follow on it. It's not a big read. It's 13 pages, very well written. Was published in the American Journal for Evaluation back in 2015. And it's more or less like it did set the background of what we're talking about. Okay, so we need some Netflix. Let me see if it can work. I'm gonna show you just a 1.5 minute video. I hope technology would help. So let me see. No, so I have possibly to open it, but how do we minimize? Stop share. Okay. Then get to the desktop, then open this one, then put pause, and then go back to the presentation, and then go back to Zoom, and then share again. I mean, you don't have to, that doesn't need too much words. It's just self-explanatory, but let's have a look at it. So you're seeing a man climbing. On your right-hand side, a guy a young boy who was left alone by his parents, who was about to fall, and then the guy jumps all the way, and it's a happy story. I hate sad endings, so yeah. And then look at him and throws it in. Look at it again. It's taken from Twitter. This is absolutely incredible. It made the news some time ago. Were you able to see the video? Okay. Happy story. You can't say that I didn't show you entertaining stuff as well. Let's go back to the less entertaining, which is my presentation. And yeah, why I wanted to show you this. Because that to me is something that to me is something that pushes thinking. Now, the man who was climbing is an illegal migrant from Mali. So he entered France illegally, and he was literally living on the street. And the first thing was that the French right wing, who are completely against migration, say, "Oh, come on, this is a complete makeup. The child was about to die just to showcase this man as a hero." And then there was a big hate speech on social media, kind of challenging this very noble act. But in fact, if you change the angle, this is a screenshot. You see, the boy is about to fall. There's a divide between the two apartments. So the man who was trying to hold his hand, it wasn't sure that he would have made it. So you just have to change the angle. And if you ask me if we need to change the angle, ask Prince William. I mean, a prince should do this, for heaven's sake. Do you think the photo is true? No. Uga, I see you like Prince William from the way you nod your head. It was actually when going out of the clinic when Kate delivered, and he was telling them there are three. But if you take the picture from this side, you have one reality. If you look at the picture from the face, you have another reality. So the whole idea about evaluative thinking is, to flip the picture. Flip the picture. Back to Mamadou. So he was made a French citizen. He was featured in all languages across all papers. He had now his Wikipedia. I've been talking to people for 40 years. I don't have a Wikipedia page. Mamadou has a Wikipedia page. When he came back to Mali, he was hosted like a hero. President Macron hosted him. He was offered a house in Cameroon. I mean, lovely story, huh? But, and here I want you to tell me, who saved who in this story? This is what I showed it to you. I need answers. I'm not gonna give you answers.
I think
Yeah.
Mamadou saved the little boy, and in turn of his great virtue, the country of France granted the citizenship, and the other following up many other good trophies for him. So I think it's reciprocal. So it looks like we have to also go further to take a look at the bigger picture, even then.
Indeed, you got it all. I mean, technically, in terms of physical act of saving, the boy was about to fall, and Mamadou saved his life. But I don't know if you've been to France and seen migrants from sub-Saharan Africa on the street. They are homeless. Many of them die of cold in the winter. You cannot get employed. If you get employed, then you're paid peanuts for working long hours. And suddenly you get a house, you get received by the president of your country, etc. So in that sense, as you say, it was a reciprocal. So when we look evaluatively at what has happened, the obvious narrative, or what people see, one side of the picture, is that Mamadou saved the boy. But the full picture is that they both saved each other. And they the French far right was mad, because normally they thrive on stories where migrants rape or kill or what have you. And this time, the migrants were portrayed in a positive manner. So, there was a lot of misinformation about it. Now, the next part of the talk is about how do you reduce the noise? How do you look at both angles? And this is where I'll be explaining negative space. Any one of you has artistic tendencies, or have learned anything related to art? No? The idea of negative space is that, as you can see in that picture, sometimes you put things more in the spotlight if you make them smaller, or if you position them in a smart way across a canvas. So here, the choice of colors, the choice of dimensions, and the boy or the girl, the child walking the dog, it immediately jumps to your attention because you've kind of cleared all the noise around it. And the art critics or those who study art mention this as negative space. You could like Google it. I was once reading a paper, I think 3 or 4 years ago, on alternative methods to evaluation, and fell across this, and I wanted to pursue this further. So this part is like in a humble manner my 2 cents to evaluative thinking. How do we link up or how do we approach negative thinking, evaluative thinking from a negative space perspective? So first, in art and design, negative space refers to employing an open space around and between the subject. It emphasizes the subject by allowing surrounding empty areas to highlight the importance, often leading to impactful results like the one I showed you. So you position the main subject of the center, and then you allow negative space. So there's isolation, focus, tranquility, and you look at what matters most. This is another example. So it's used quite a lot. If you look at this, yeah. Basically, there are 5 commonalities between evaluative thinking and negative space. And that's the third key takeaway of the lecture today. The subject is the focus of evaluation. So the boy or the child with the dog, the boat or the journey of the boat. The surrounding empty space represents the, broader context, the factors and influences, technically, that give the evaluation depth and meaning. So for example, if you're evaluating a youth leadership program, of course, you're focusing on the program itself, but the social, political, cultural factors, more or less, are the negative space that shape how the program is perceived and measured. So, and this is super important. So one, the subject is the focus of evaluation. 2, clarity through absence. So the negative space in art lets you breathe. So it removes everything around the subject so you can contemplate and look at the subject. In evaluative thinking, you have to strip away the noise, remove the noise. Don't look at all the data. Don't get lost in tons and tons and tons of data. Last year, I was in an evaluation where they shared an Excel file with about 56,000 entries. I mean, what the hell can you do, or what can you explain about 56,000 entries on Excel? There's a lot of distraction. So applying this to evaluative thinking, you don't need, the advice would be that you don't need to track every minor metric in an evaluation. Let go. Choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aspects and focus on them. And in that regard, if you look at utilization-focused evaluation, also a brilliant invention by Quinn Patton, intended uses, intended users, you could find a lot. So focus on the subject and remove the noise, and then look at the meaning. The emptiness is not just empty. It's part of the active composition that gives power. So the advice here is what is not said or measured can be as important as what is. So if we go back to the leadership program, if you have very high participation but very low long-term impact, then keeping away the metrics. Don't look at pre and post tests and number of attendees and the reports issued by the organization, but ask yourself, what did it change in the lives of those who attended it? And many of the tricks is sometimes we take triangulation lightly. So we ask the project staff, we look at the literature, which is also written by project staff. We go to few focus groups that are often chosen by project staff, and then we write the report. Being curious, listening to what is not being said, challenging the people to get out of their comfort zone and tell you what they need is or can also be as important. Like for the smoker who I am, sometimes when we have smoking breaks, this is where people feel more at ease to talk. Two more principles derived from negative space: the balance and tensions. In the artistic approach of negative space, you balance the composition. Too much or too little creates imbalance. In evaluative thinking, you have to balance the main findings with the broader context. And that makes me laugh, especially when you're evaluating democracy programs, when USAID was still funding democracy in countries that rank 195 on 200 countries in the corruption index, or where you have a president and his son in place ever since the beginning. So these, could be real aberrations. And as such, focusing on success stories without addressing the failures. So success stories would be the positive space, failures would be the negative space. It would create an imbalance and mislead the evaluation. Last but not least, the art of subtle insight. So you probably see when we're talking about negative space, it's a simple, it's rather simplistic, huh? So that you're invited to reflect on what you see. And in evaluative thinking, it's not just about providing answers. It's about guiding stakeholders by asking them to engage in the space around the data. So when you're doing an evaluation, sometimes you feel obliged to explain the project did not achieve but A, B, C, D. We just put in the report what the staff told us. No, it did not achieve. Then trigger a reflection around what it did not achieve and what should be done differently to achieve it. I realize I still have maybe 5 minutes, so I'm gonna skim through and finish with an anecdote. So anyone can think evaluatively, but it's not trivial and it requires practice. You have constantly to think, how do we enable that practice and how do we implement it all the time? You have to implement a safe space. Your evaluees or your staff or the organization you're working with has to really trust you so that you're working in a safe space model. It's counterproductive to start big. You have to identify one area, one question, one aspect, start with small changes and then ramp it up. You cannot change the culture of a program or an organization overnight. And don't be shy about it. Try to persuade peers and colleagues. And let's finish. We have little Camel asking his mother a question this morning. Why do camels have humps? So the mother would say, well, honey, we're animals of the desert, and the hump, we store water and we can survive without water, if my memory is not failing, about 50 days. A camel can be in the desert 50 days without drinking because of the hump. And then he said, okay, mom, why our legs are long and our feet are round? The mom said, you know, we're known to walk in the desert. So this is why long and round feet allow us to walk in the sand. And then he said, mom, one more question, please. Why do we have long eyelashes? Sometimes it bothers my side. And the mom said, you know, my son, I think long eyelashes is to protect you from the sun when you're walking in the desert. So the little boy wants to become an evaluator when he grows up. Say, okay, so the humps are to store water when we're in the desert. The legs are for walking on sand when we're in the desert. The eyelashes are to protect our eyes when we're walking in the desert. But what the hell we are doing in the zoo? And I think, yeah, I had a few more goodies, but time is running out. Let me close by what again, Quinn Patton, I mean, he doesn't often wear neckties, but this picture I like. I believe that evaluative thinking can make more effective those who are deeply committed to and authentically engaged in getting more money, no, and working more, no, and making the world a better place, which is what we strive to do as evaluators. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I can't stop. Okay, that's very interesting and very, very, that's really more than fun, the watching the Netflix comedy. I'm sorry, sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's so very, very, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I was the first time attending the Young and Emerging Evaluators winter course. That was the second course, yeah, and organized by the APIA. So that was one of the presenter, and still, yeah, this kind of learning really long lasting, I think, rather than just providing just context and trying to connect the context or theory to the practical examples and so on. This is really interesting. And we discussed many things, but there are also the many takeaways, but we can discuss later on the takeaways. But first we have the questions from the audience. Timge raised the hand, right? Okay. And Olga, okay.
Thanks very much,
dive in.
Zai. It was so refreshing and so thought-provoking, especially that negative speech. For me, it was the first time I heard, and then I was struggling within myself. How can I isolate myself in that space and really focusing, like having bullseye on the subject at the same time? That we have to be cognizant of all the broader issues, risks, and assumptions, right? And my question is, you mentioned first that our thinking, evaluative thinking, is more towards that assumption side, right? That we have to treat them more, I think, from now on, more in the higher place instead of putting that in the of our logic model. So do you think that we also should bring the risks in equal to assumptions, or do you assume they together? Okay, so that was the first question. My second question, I have many, but I'll just stop by 2. So you said that believing in the things that you will change because of this evaluation, that was very empowering to me. And yesterday, some of our board members, we met the government main body in charge of MEA. It was supposed to be 1 hour. It then took us 2 hours because we were so delving into many things that we can cooperate with. And while we were putting our coats and on the way to the door, go out, the director of the MEA department said, no, it's our hope that that we will make a difference, and we will make a change because of our now work. So that hearing that word gave me, I think, the first time the belief in the government, because in Mongolia we've been in the last 30 years, many governments changing and the many is trying to be built up. But I felt like this lady who is the new director now, she's very convicted that she could make the change with with her cadre. And in that, they are working long hours and trying to also bring the weapon, the whole bigger system. So I think now I triangulate her word with after the takeaway from you. So we believe in that good partnership. Yeah, thanks very much.
But just quickly, working in evaluation, but more in monitoring, can be that boring. And sometimes people do not understand your value or your utility, or that, damn it, you're the bass in the orchestra. If the bass goes wrong, all the orchestra goes wrong. And evaluation and the project cycle management is like this. Now, the problem is that we often approach it from a very academic angle, and we, before anybody else, fail to do the projection or the connection between what people would understand and what we want to convey to them. And this is how I style my presentations. There's often this, this talk about Kabir Hashim would say, when you send me an evaluation report of 200 pages, as a policymaker, I have 10 minutes to understand and make a decision, with or against. So for heaven's sake, send me something I can grasp in a language that I can understand and with a clear stance, so that I can make a decision. I think when we keep talking about evaluation news and evaluation systems and what that, we go all over the place, but we forget what matters most. On assumptions, yes, assumptions and risks. However, within the donor community, now they ask you to elaborate very elaborate risk matrix with rankings and what have you, but assumptions are always kept in the corner, while whether it's the theory of change or the log frame or anything else, it's navigating through the assumptions and see if they came together or not, that really shapes the thing. And on that new lady, well, you have to keep remembering yourself and the association first, and then the whole Mongolia community, that we're doing this job not to track inputs and outputs, not to look at activities. We're looking at how we're changing the lives of people. And if we as evaluators are not standing with, especially in these strange times we are living now, if we're not standing for the rights and for the change and for the improved social, economic, environmental, what have you conditions, then we're really off track in whatever we do. Yeah.
Can I go next?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So my question is very brief. I'm just curious. I was thinking that how we can differentiate the subjective thinking and the evaluative thinking. Because when we're doing the evaluation, we always have some kind of like attitudes to prevent our subjective thinking into our, to affect into our analysis or results, etc. Right? Although we use different sources of information and data, etc., to triangulate, just to prevent our biased or some kind of subjective thinking. But can the evaluative thinking sometimes be considered as subjective? So if yes, where can we put the the line to decide if it's evaluative or if it's subjective?
Well, listen, evaluative thinking does not implicitly or explicitly imply that you have to be objective. But in this profession, we talk a lot about independence. Like when you are hired, you have to sign that you have nothing to do with the project, etc. But that changes your perspective towards, I don't know, social rights or what have you know? I mean, you have your baggage, you have your know-how, and you're coming to do an evaluation. Now, the secret, I mean, the one who will tell you, no, I have to forget about it and start as a blank page would be lying to you and to himself or herself. You cannot start as a blank page. We're humans, we have our experiences, we have our luggage, we have our biases. Now, the thing is, sometimes if we only scratch the surface, our bias would get confirmed or infirmed. And many of the times we look at confirming our biases to say that this is it. But the challenge is being open to have your bias infirmed, negated. And again, going back to the negative space metaphor, if you're too much focused on the subject and then trying to project your biases on the subject, this is wrong. If you're taking the time to look at everything around and then trying to balance, again, I'm not saying take them away, but trying to balance what you know, what they know, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Then evaluation can do what is expected from it to do, which is improve, which is guide, which is empower, etc., etc. That could be another topic as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. In the chat, we have a question that Xiaoxi Lian says, asked, what does start small look like? Start small look
Start
like?
small look like, yeah.
Yeah. Can you give us a few examples, especially in a big organizations with a big system and big people?
Who's working in a big organization and big system? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing, guys. Yeah, thanks for the nice comments on and the chat. I haven't seen them when I was on full screen mode. Start small, meaning again, being realistic. Is not writing on a prescription what you should do, but being very realistic about what you could do. What you could do, and if you're working in a small organization, as challenge some of the practices. And often the right way to start is by going through the communication department. The communication department, I'm trying not to give politically insensitive examples, but that was at some point in time during the Cold War propaganda, like our organization is the best, our organization, fund our organization, and often it goes into misery porn. Often a woman wearing her colored dress, sitting in a very poor setting, and holding, I don't know, the cooking pot or the gas or the television or the motorcycle or the sewing machine that the organization gave it. And still this I accepted, rather than children barefoot, skinny, looking lost, and say, we need to help them. Stop it. So the communication people are very good at that. They take shrewd journalists and tell you, we're going to make success story. But you could go to them and say, everything you saw was successful. Don't you think that based on what we have discussed or what we have seen or how things are evolving, that we need to do something different? And you could start from there. Another starting point, an obvious starting point, is the MEL team. And in many instances, the people perceive you just as the one who chases everybody, especially towards the end of the month, to get the data because the report is due. Well, our job is not just to hunt for data. Our job is to look at the data, study the data, and see how we can improve, whether you're a simple monitoring officer and whether you're a senior evaluator. So these simple steps, holding discussions, sometimes asking the management after 6 months where, every week you're talking about the problems that the project is facing. Let's look differently. Are we working with the right partners? Is the political environment changing what's happening, etc., etc., etc.? So these could be the advices behind Start Small, which by the way are not mine, they're Thomas, based on his experience.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. Since we have just only 1 minute left, I would like say thank you very much, Ziad, for such insightful, thought-provoking, especially the new terms you introduced us, like, evaluative thinking plus the negative space, This is also we had many good takeaways from this knowledge sharing session. If we had time, we had many the examples just come out during the experience, as you mentioned, especially the evaluative thinking and negative space, that we have to look at the broader the context, not only just keeping the balance and so on, the many things. And also one thing I would like to highlight is that the evaluative thinking may reflect, I think that you mentioned that as the evaluator, we should not focus only the big data or reporting, like in the answering all the questions, rather than we have to understand the whole context, like the problems. Maybe through like the success stories or change stories, significant change stories or something like that, understanding the context and see there is the hidden the points and the things like that. The more the artistic understanding, that the understanding the picture, that looking at the picture and so on. This is really the whole the insightful, whole the provoking, the eye-opening sessions. So for me and for us as well, thank you for your time, Ziad, for today's learning session. And in the future, you will teach more and more these new concepts, and very thankful for this session. Thank you very much.
Well, my pleasure, my absolute pleasure. When I put on my LinkedIn page that, wow, we're going to Mongolia. Well, I traveled virtually to Mongolia today. I follow when I said the phenomenal field building that the Mongolian Evaluation Association is doing. I've been in that business, IOC, Eval Partners, Eval MENA, what have you, and I do appreciate when an organization, when a VOPE is working really like a VOPE and trying to promote the topic. So I could not help it but be there. And there again, count on me, whatever you need, guys.
Sure. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice
Cheers.
evening. For me, I'll start my day. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Mm.